All right, we're going to talk about the plague of the high black male achiever. All right, and why disparaging the high achieving black boys and men keeps us all down. One issue that is overlooked in our efforts to promote the development of academically high achieving black boys who will over time eventually become the productive, law abiding, high achieving adult males as career professionals or as independent entrepreneurs is the chiding, the disparaging, and outright anti-intellectualism targeted at the success-oriented black boys and aspirational young men. The sad thing is that it's usually coming from the slacker teenage boys or even young adult males who bash their academic and career accomplishments as not keeping it real or acting white or calling them educated lames or simps in the social media sphere. In a highly competitive 21st century economy where black men are sorely underrepresented at less than 3% of all of the high growth, high income STEM fields, which is science, technology, engineering, and math career fields, the berating of the intellectual pursuits by black boys and men needs to 100% stop. The author and activist Bell Hooks, in her 2004 book called We Real Cool: Black Men and Masculinity, it primarily addresses the deleterious effects of mass media images within race disempowerment and class-based education on African American male socialization. Accordingly, young African American men are groomed to devalue educational achievement, as due to societal messages that are internalized and reinforced by black families and peers. I mean, she basically notes that in some black households, the boy who likes to read is typically suspected of being at risk for developing feminine or sissy characteristics, aka gay. Now, what makes this so problematic is the same perceptions held among black male peer groups is often coupled with low teacher expectations of black male school success. Consequently, few receive the support needed to overcome long-standing educational inequalities and societal disadvantages. And if you want to read more about that, you can check out Bell Hooks' book. It's called We Real Cool: Black Men and Masculinity. You can pick it up on Amazon. But according to John X. Iguia, professor of economics at Michigan State University, gaining access to the best universities and jobs requires getting through the screening process. And it is those individuals who can adapt and assimilate to environments where middle-class social norms are the standard that ultimately get the brass ring of admissions, matriculation, and graduation. In his essay, A Theory of Discrimination and Assimilation, he states that, quote, only high types who generate positive externalities to the members of the better off group, i.e. the mainstream middle class society, assimilate. The acting white phenomenon, in which students of disadvantaged economic groups punish peers who succeed academically, can be explained as an optimal strategy on the part of the untalented students to try to keep their more able peers in the community. So it may be some psychological things going on where they may not be trying to hold you back. They just may be trying to keep you around to better benefit them. In other words, furthermore, black clinical psychologist James Davison Jr. persists that an attitude of defeatism and hostility by blacks towards fellow blacks who, after earning success, are accused of failing to keep it real are the root of this black social failure. And Dr. Davis finds that you have failing in basically two categories. One, the advancers, who are industrious, hardworking, and up to freedom's challenges. And then you have two, the delayers, who feel entitled, negative, and self-defeated. The advancers typically unequivocally reject the myths of an unbeatable system. They avoid the pitfalls of vice and are willing to work really hard. You see, the layers do the opposite to the extent that they even discourage friends and family from striving to escape poverty. To explain why someone would choose such a deeply flawed environment, Davis cites comfort and familiarity. Believing the game of life is somehow stacked against them. Someone with a victim mentality they tend to find an odd sense of security by limiting their choices. You also see a lot of this in the manosphere arena as well. James Davison Jr. has some pretty decent books. One called The Prisoners of Our Past, a look at self-defeating attitudes within the Black community. Another one is called Sweet Release, The Last Step to Black Freedom. Okay, so when Black male peers denigrate the academic or career and business accomplishments of other Black men, it pushes a much needed group of Black men away from the Black community. So keeping it real has to also mean keeping it smart, because that's what matters ultimately. I mean, Black boys and men should be encouraged to bring their A game at all times, whether it's in the classroom, court, rap battles, basketball court. It doesn't matter. Bring your A game. It reminds me of this documentary done by Mario Van Peebles called Bring Your A Game. You see, the Black middle class flight away from the Black community may occur not only for improved standards of living in the suburbs, but also because of the harsh anti-middle class and anti-aspirational values of poor Blacks. When a rapper like Future, the father of 3 children from 3 different women he's never married, is praised by the Black community and nominated for Image Awards for making music that repeats gangster and thug life violence and utter degradation, all while the NFL quarterback, who is actually a Super Bowl champion and an alum of University of Wisconsin, divorced, no children, is maligned and called a simp in Black social media for marrying the R&B singer Sierra Harris, a single parent, which is problematic. But why are we chastising Russell Wilson and not Future? In a chapter titled The Family Curse by Dr. James Davis Jr., he discusses how the Black community collectively in the USA sees itself as a family, but does not show love for the family members that challenge in-group social norms by pursuing more mainstream values and aspirations. Typically, for Black Americans, those persons who grow and develop ahead of the mass are not awarded family status. To the contrary, growth and development for such persons has been too often met with derision, ridicule, and censor in reaction to their advancing. Oreo, Uncle Tom, and sellout are the epithets that have been reserved for such advancers. Dr. Davison further asserts that ghetto fables about who is authentically Black, as well as how the system is inherently against all Blacks, serve to bolster the self-esteem of the underachieving Black Americans while implicitly devaluing the achievement of Black advancers. Directly quoted from page 69. And unfortunately, today's current generation of intellectual Black boys and men get no respect from male peers, teenage girls for boys, or aspirational young women on college campuses for young men. In addition to their lack of membership in the STEM fields, professional Black men are also underrepresented in the important HEAL fields, which is healthcare, education, and literacy. According to the USnews.com, African American men are one of the only minority groups not making progress in STEM. In that article, it speaks about the higher education administrators, students, and industry professionals gathering in Washington, D.C. to speak to congressional staffers and representatives about the need to attract more African American men to STEM. Okay? So this is a big deal. Also reported by edweek.org, Black male teachers, a dwindling demographic. In this article, Chris L. Rohn speaks to Gage Harrison, which is a student of Picayune Center in the Alternative Education in Picayune, Mississippi. And basically, he just talks about how, 10 years prior, he wasn't, it was more African-American teachers. And now it's dwindled down to where he's the only one. So, and this is happening all over the country. Also, almost 82% of social workers are female. And this is hurting men. Okay, it's all these little compounding issues. And then you have another article written by dole.gov, which is titled Future Work Trends and Challenges for the Work in the 21st Century. And it basically speaks about The low skilled labor market, where it basically says the low skilled labor market has changed markedly in the last decades. The return to education and other measures of skill grew rapidly between the early 1970s and the early 1990s. It says the return to skills has stabilized since then. The rising return to education has induced two important supply responses. First, young people have enrolled in college and completed college degrees at much higher rates. Second, young unskilled men, particularly black men, have decreased their labor force participation and their hours of work. Okay, while inequality has increased among education groups, it has declined between men and women, and blacks and whites. Okay, so while evidence of labor market discrimination still exists, much of the remaining gap in black and white men's wages can be attributed to their level of skills before they enter the labor market. The black community is in dire need of black male teachers, social workers, engineers, and scientists. In fact, the black community needs skilled black men in all knowledge economy career areas. These nerdy intellectual men need to be valued, appreciated, and respected by their communities in order for them to be motivated to invest their time, talent, and resources into those communities. Is it unreasonable that young men who are considered sellouts and acting white for their success would eventually just move away and put down their roots, for somewhere where they're valued? In the chapter Mechanisms and Machinations of Self-Defeat by Dr. Davison, he notes, advancers choose to identify with the future. By and large, these individuals embrace the American dream of hard work and success. Such persons are eager and willing to invest in their future. They attribute black success to ability and effort. They believe that competition within the system will reap rewards and they will succeed. However, delayers choose to identify with the past. They characteristically hang onto the familiarities of the system's injustice. Delayers attribute success for any black person to luck, serendipity, or ingratiating behavior. Delayers believe the system is stacked mightily and emphatically against all black people. In the face of increasing opportunities to grow, expand, and heal, delay rather than advancement becomes their watchword. How can we move forward? We can move forward with an honest emphasis on learning and respect for higher education. This is one way we can close these deficits in education and income for black men. A changing world requires people to also change. The main reason why fewer men are working is that sweeping structural changes in rich economies have reduced the demand for all low-skilled labor. Manufacturing has declined as the share of GDP and productivity growth has enabled factories to produce more with fewer people. Technological advances require higher skills. Men have been hit harder than women by these shifts because men are most likely to be in the fields of manufacturing, whereas women have been better represented in sectors such as healthcare and education where most job growth has taken place. In addition, have also done more than men to improve their academic credentials. In most rich countries, they are likelier than men to go to university. Shifts in the global economy have strongly impacted the job options for non-degreed black men. The decline of the working American man has been most marked among the less educated blacks. Back in the 1960s, Daniel Patrick Moynihan raised the alarm about the link between joblessness and the decline of the black American family. He argued that men without work become less attractive as marriage partners. Why nerds are the solution to black family breakdown? As Princeton mom Susan Patton says in her book, Marry Smart, nerds can become the best husbands and fathers because they tend to be more stable, are less likely to be players, and their needs to be happy are simple to negotiate. Nice wife, fun sex, cool kids, so he brings home the paycheck. And furthermore, being a black nerd needs to become more sexy to black women. I mean, you need a man who's able to provide for his wife and kids, or is even able to provide for children of a baby mama. You know what I mean? So, Marry Smart, Advice for Finding One by Susan Patton. You need to pick that up. Another great book is called Nerds Make the Best Husbands. You need to pick that up. Also, you have Let's Learn to Ground with Our Brothers. And this one was written by the late Pan-African historian and activist Dr. Walter Rodney, author of The Grounding of My Brothers, where he discusses the importance of the educated and the poor working together to build better societies. He was both valedictorian of his secondary school in Guyana, as well as valedictorian of his class at the University of College West Indies in Jamaica before acquiring a doctorate degree in African history at the University of London School of Oriental and African Studies at the age of 24. Now it's time for this generation to ground with our brothers by giving up and putting to rest terms like acting white, educated lames, and simps in reference to smart, nerdy brainiacs in the black community. Look at here, we have a wonder kid by the name of Jalen Bledsoe, a 17-year-old self-proclaimed black nerd. Is also an information technology entrepreneur that has successfully built a consulting firm grossing $3.5 million annually while in high school. His next plans are to get an engineering degree from Vanderbilt University and then move on to graduate school to secure both a master's in business administration as well as computer science from Harvard University. Since past behavior is the best predictor of future behavior, it's highly likely that he'll accomplish his plans. Can the black community value, appreciate, and respect the intelligent, nerdy brother who may become our own Bill Gates or Steve Jobs in the future? I sure hope so. Jalen Bledsoe, high school sophomore, builds $3.5 million IT company. Unbelievable. Peace.